Minister, thanks so much for joining us. In 2022, Lebanon secured a tentative deal with the International Monetary Fund for a $3 billion loan, but that deal was conditioned on a list of reforms which had to be implemented first. What is the status of that loan right now?
So, we reached the staff level agreement, the SLA. It's been 2 years. And the prior actions, what we call prior actions in this case, were basically reforms, as I always said, that the government should have done anyways. They shouldn't be conditioned as an IMF reform. Those are the minimum requirements that really the IMF put on Lebanon to begin really heading towards a final agreement. And unfortunately, since then, the political turmoil in Lebanon and the instability, the diversity I would say, in negative positions of different political parties, particularly in the parliament, delayed the issuing or the ratification on most of those laws. So our progression has not been significant. And our discussions today, early this morning with the IMF, were a disappointment from the IMF that 2 years has passed and we're still talking about the staff level agreement for a country that is in dire need for reform, restructuring, and a framework that the IMF was planning to put for Lebanon. Plus the $3 billion that you mentioned that could really kickstart the economy in many different ways, because it is in parallel to a proper and adequate framework that Lebanon needs. However, we still have a lot to do. The parliament until today, even though the government has sent those draft laws, we call them, to the parliament for ratification, is still not decisive about three major laws. The most important one is a banking restructuring law. Another one was related to banking secrecy that was done but was not ideal and not complete to the extent that the IMF looked forward to. And we had the capital control law, in addition to a few other things like the budgets to be on time, and mostly those were the major ones, but have not been finalized.
Right, so a crucial time for the country, but you have other added issues. I mean, if you look at the situation right now, Lebanon is at the center of a region that is facing major challenges right now, security challenges. We have the Israeli attacks, the ground assault in Gaza, which continues. It's killed tens of thousands of people. We have Hezbollah and Israel that are exchanging fire almost on a daily basis. We've just had the Iranian attacks on Israel, Israel threatening retaliation. All this has precipitated fears of a wider regional war. What impact would that have on Lebanon?
So Lebanon is directly impacted by everything going on in Gaza. I have been, sharing details and data with a lot of the media the past few weeks about the reality that Lebanon is actually in war, because some people are still thinking, Lebanon does not want to get in conflict. We have over 100,000 people that moved from their villages, their houses, from the borders into the cities. We have hundreds of schools that are shut down. We have impact on the economy, I would say billions of dollars. We just announced over $2.5 billion loss only in the agricultural sector because of the bombs that are being used that are not approved. Those bombs are not approved. They're called, I forgot the name of
the phosphorus bombs?
The phosphorus bombs. They ruined the entire soil. They burnt over 100,000 trees of the most important agricultural trees that we have, olive trees in Lebanon. And this will need rehabilitation of the land. This will need a lot of work for years to come and billions of dollars of losses. Not to mention the impact on the economy by large. On the tourism sector, we rely a lot the past few years on the tourism sector that has been the only sector pumping in hard currency into the country. And that has been impacted a lot by the war, plus all the uncertainty that is in Lebanon now about the future. So we were looking to move one step forward, and this will move us 10 steps to the backwards.
Right, so you do have political challenges, as you pointed out, that Parliament is dragging its feet on implementing some of these reforms required by the IMF. Another issue is the fact that the country has not had a president since 2022. That's another impasse that you have to deal with.
Yeah, that's one of the big impediments in Lebanon now to move forward, because a lot of the international community players, including the IMF, made it very clear that they are not willing to get to a final agreement unless we have a proper functioning constitutional government with all its leadership in place, meaning a president, a new government, because now we're a caretaker government. So that type of work needs leadership. And without leadership, the international community is still holding off a lot of the things that they wish to help or aid Lebanon with, because it's really difficult to work on a country level when you're talking lifting a country that's facing all those issues, economic, security, war. You have the over 2 million Syrian refugees. I mean, you can name all the problems on the planet, you can find them today in Lebanon. So electing a president is a big need. It's an imminent need to really set up the proper constitutional structure for the next stage.
You also have a very high inflation rate, running at about 220%. What kind of efforts are being made to bring that down?
So our biggest threat, I mean, inflation, as you know, it came on different segments, including the global inflation, then all the maritime issues that raised the costs, then after COVID-19. So what we're doing now is really we're trying, and all that came when Lebanon lost 98% of the value of its currency versus the dollar. So those two elements coming together even made the inflation issue more complex and more hard on the Lebanese citizen, because their salaries lost really 98% of their value, while products, food products and necessities, livelihood products all went up by between 10 to 30% in some cases. So what we're doing first, we were working with the Central Bank of Lebanon to stabilize at least the exchange rate of lira to dollar, because it was fluctuating in a crazy way. Last year, it even went beyond the 100,000 Lebanese lira for a dollar. So we kind of followed a method that Harvard University just put a big positive report on our work to dollarize the country for a little while. And that's just a solution for this period of time. And that helped create stability in the market, because people are using dollar. There's no need to do a lot of exchange in the country. This really created good stability. In one way or another, helped kind of defy the impacts of inflation on the cost of things for people.
Right, and looking at your export market, China imported more than $64 million worth of products from Lebanon in 2023. That's according to UN Comtrade, which is the database of international trade. Lebanon, of course, known for its, you mentioned olive oil earlier on, textiles, the wine industry as well. So China, of course, is a country of 1.4 billion people. What kind of opportunities does that offer Lebanon?
To be quite honest, I've been very impressed the past few years, and as Minister of Economy and Trade responsible for import-export issues, I have spent quite a good time with the Chinese economic people available that are in Lebanon in the embassy, and the ambassador that we have in Lebanon. They have been quite engaged and working really hard in good faith to open up the Chinese market for Lebanon. And we have seen a lot of initiatives actually that turned very positive, supporting small businesses really to have online accessibility to China market. And the numbers were unbelievably positive. Everything that was promoted or put on the shopping list was sold in China. So that shows a lot of interest in China to have kind of a bilateral trade relation, despite the fact of the size of the market is very, very different. But we import as well a lot from China. We are big importers. We're talking in the billions because Lebanon is a big importing country. We import a lot, unfortunately, because the past policies and the past economic policies that were put didn't turn Lebanon more into an exporting country. But China is pushing for more trade with Lebanon, and I think we can do more. Especially when it is opening up the markets for small businesses that are really doing well, especially on the what we call it the electronic online platforms.